Welcome back to another episode of Ali's Allotment. It's been a while since I've done a update. I thought I'd take you on a little tour of the allotment. We'll start off with the polytunnel. In this large pot here we've got plenty of coriander. It's actually a favourite of my little girl's at the moment. She's always picking at it. There's a little bit of kale that's growing. We planted some yellow dwarf beans and they've come through. I would have hoped that they'd have been a little bit more established by now, but as you know, we've not had the most favourable weather recently. It's just another row of kale that I've planted. Now in here I've got a little experiment going on. I'm trying to see if I can get jute, a vegetable that's eaten in Southeast Asia, for its leaves, and as you can see I'm doing all I can to give it maximum warmth, but it's just a trial. Along the back of the polytunnel I've got tomatoes in pots. These are the tomatoes that I potted up in a previous episode. I think they were 1 month old tomato seedlings and they're doing fine. Some were planted into the ground and I've had luck with that before, so I'm going to do that again this year. Incidentally, this patch of coriander that's grown has just come up from seeds that had fallen into the ground from previous coriander plants. Towards the front of the polytunnel I've got some chilies. And over here is our seed bank for next year. Mustard seeds are going to be formed in these tiny little pods. And the same with coriander seeds. In fact, you can just see some tiny little flowers starting to develop. And while we wait for the seeds to form, these thin coriander leaves are perfectly fine for using in garnishing salads and adding to however way you add your coriander to dishes. This is the more familiar form, but as you see, as the plant gets older and it starts to develop flowers and seeds, it produces these thin leaves. They're really intense and perfectly good for eating. And just here we've got some more chili peppers. I'm hoping they'll kick on now in the next couple of weeks. A big project for this year was to sort out this large area of space, and I mentioned it in the November update. As you can see, we've managed to create two quite substantial veg beds at the moment they're not really high, but if I needed to, I could always add planks to the side and make this a raised bed. What I've also done is rested these sides onto the flagstones with the idea of trying to preserve them for a bit longer, so they're not actually in contact with the ground directly. You can see that better over here. So this was an area that wasn't being used productively. It was the area that I described as an organised mess. But it is a south facing part of the plot, and I'm hoping to be able to cultivate a few more varieties of veg as a result of clearing this space. Just at the back is my pear tree, which I've decided it's too big and in such a difficult position that I'm not going to move it. So I'm going to try and train it along. The pears are starting to form very nicely. That's just my gooseberry bushes. I've got another one down there. And we haven't given too much care to the rhubarb. I haven't given it any feed. I certainly haven't put any manure on it. So the rhubarbs are looking very sorry for themselves. But we might be able to get something from it. We've also tried to make use of some of the space adjacent to the polytunnel, and we've just sown it up with some low cropping plants, and in this case it's onion, red onion and some white onion. I've just planted some radishes at the back there, and the reason for that is obviously I don't want to plant anything that will cast a shadow onto the polytunnel, which will defeat the objective of trying to maximise what we're growing in there. And in here I've just sown some spring onion seeds. Not got a great deal of hope with that. The cool temperatures that we've had means that I'm not sure we're going to get much germination. But the onions are doing well, and these won't form very large sized bulbs, but what we have found is homegrown onions, particularly the red variety, keep very well, and they're brilliant just to dice and add to salads. Adds to the variety of what you're putting in your salad bowl. So have a go at growing some onion if you've not considered it before. We didn't used to grow onions, but with having the space on the allotment, thought we'd have a go at it this year in a larger space. And what I've got going on here is under a large piece of glass. It's actually a salvaged door from a commercial drinks refrigerator, but what it has done is allowed me to just get the dwarf beans germinated outside, but under a cloth type structure. Just hold it up. There you go. Those are the dwarf beans that I've managed to get to germinate outside using this improvised cover. why don't we have a look at how the garlic's getting on? It's becoming quite a feature now. A garlic update on Ali's allotment. Incidentally, this large boxed raised bed is going to be an area that I'm going to try and grow Bangladeshi bottle gourd undercover but outside. So those of you who are interested in growing khoddu, check back to see what ideas I have about this and how that might pan out. The khoddu plants are indoors at the moment, not doing great, but eagerly anticipating, I'm sure, much warmer weather. So keep checking back to see what we're going to be doing with this. Let's have a look at one of the greenhouses and see what's going on. We've got some runner beans that we've managed to get started in these noodle pots. Got some more tomatoes in pots. But unfortunately, even in a greenhouse, the real cold temperatures that we've been exposed to in the last couple of weeks has meant that the amaranth that I sowed, it's not looking the best. I won't give up hope. We'll just see how they get on. And likewise, the lal hag that I grew, it's not where I'd want it to be, given that I sowed it in April. But again, you know, a couple of weeks of milder weather might cause this to step up a bit. And the small lean-to greenhouse is where we're storing the chilies in pots. I'm hoping that by the time I do an update next time, you'll see that these will be doing far better. And that's just naturally the course. If it's not a great spring, then the plants just hang on in there until we get some warm weather. Let's hope we have a warmer end to spring. Just caught my attention, this lemon balm. I've had it for a few years. It's growing really well in the corner of my small greenhouse. However, what do I do with this? I believe it's an edible. If any of my YouTube gardening friends or anybody else knows how I might use this in cooking, then please share with us. Any ideas will be welcome.